So good morning, good afternoon and good evening. My name is Rich Clark, and for Friday's Fears and Phobias series, a series about the top 100 phobias in the world. Now they're not in order, so I'm just talking about different ones, but I'm talking about the ones I think which are relevant to what's going on in the world. So what I teach here is how therapy such as hypnotherapy helps cure them, but I also explain about them. So number 33 out of the top 100 is the fear of change, which is called Metathesiophobia. And what this is this fear of change. This is a massive subject of encompassing. So I'm going to explain a few things about change and what this means. So the fear of change or changing things is called metathesiophobia. It's often linked with tropophobia, which is the fear of moving. The origin of the word metaphobia comes from the Greek meto, meaning change, and phobias, meaning fear. So most phobias you actually call phobias or fears are actually from the Greek or Latin. So the specific phobia can reduce one's will to live. They often feel that they have no control over their lives owing to constant changes. They tend to live in the past and may also be depressed. I bet you know someone who's like this, so you'd be quite surprised how many people are like this. This phobia makes them unwilling to move, to progress, or to change anything from their usual routine. Now, when we're coming into routines, some people have specific routines. Sometimes this can be seen as an autistic trait or seen as a form of something where they've got a certain ailment of how they behave. So this can be sometimes difficult for certain people, but on the general population, to change is a good thing. So this can severely impact one's professional and personal lives. So the causes of this fear of change. The fear of change is evolutionary in humans. Hence we hear changing times, here we hear the evolution theory, and so forth. Since times immemorial, most people have liked routine. Our internal predispositions is what's hereditary and our genetics, and also what makes us up and our social conditioning, teach us to resist change, mainly to always feel in control. So the mind actually doesn't like change. It likes to know exactly what it does and has its opinions. So that's why when you give an opinion which doesn't always resonate with the person who you're turning to, though it could be the truth, they don't like it. And I'm going to talk about the fear of opinions later on, because I think it's a big problem in the social media world and in academic studies. And this whole thing of you can't say things because or getting cancel culture. I'm also going to talk about that as censorship is going to be a Truthful Tuesday post soon as well. So again, this is all interrelated. So this idea of always wanting to feel comfortable, the normal fear of change becomes a full-blown phobia in which it's irrational, persistent, and very intense. I'm not changing for this. I want things to be the same. But that doesn't work. Life changes. It moves on. And this is where another one I'll be talking about is technology and the meaning of that and the future, how that changes. And I work with people to see their future, to help them deal with their past, change their mindset, and to then help them overcome that fear of then changing to be successful or be happy in what they do, instead of just doing the routinal stuff which they think is okay. So personal emotional distress caused by many life changes can trigger such a fear of change. Guess where this starts? In the childhood. A child who's experienced moving multiple times in short periods of time, or the death of a family member or loved one, might also have experienced changes in financial situations or lifestyle owing to these changes. This can lead them to resist change of any type even in adulthood. So, for example, as a child, I experienced death. My grandmother died. I had many relatives who died. My grandfather died when I was 13 and my father died when I was 15. But with these things, though it changed financially, I wasn't fear of death. Never had a fear of death. Believe that death is only the finality in the physical form, but in the spiritual form it carries on. That is my opinion. That's how I always understood death. So I've never had this fear thing, what other children have. But changing financial things, you just learn to adapt and you learn to navigate through that. There's no fear about it. It's just something you have to do, and it's how you survive. So with this, these children they've experienced change in financial and lifestyle owing to these. This can lead them to resist change of any type, even in adulthood. People don't like moving. I've moved many times. Sometimes you have to move. Sometimes you live somewhere, job takes you to somewhere else, so you have to move closer to the job or somewhere where it's easier to travel to. going to another country. At the moment, I live in Spain. I'm my mum's carer. Is it my place I really want to be in? No, but I've had to do that to look after my mum because there's nobody, or I have the financial funds to fund her being cared for. I've changed and moved to India because I felt there was an opportunity for me to travel around India. And then there was also the other thing of that was to learn something different and different culture. And I've lived in different places. I've lived in different places in the UK, and I've lived different places in Europe. So change for me is not something I worry about. And this is one of my reasons why I want to help so many people with hypnotherapy with changing their mindset, because people fear leaving home. Fear of the living crisis, another fucking bullshit term. There is a living crisis. It is. It's called being poor. When you're working class, you deal with living crisis all the time. Just now it's affecting the middle class, and they're not sure of it. Instead of them eating out and having nice meals all the time, they've had to, pull in their purse strings. So fear of being unable to adapt, fear of meeting new people, or fear of environment changes can also deter one's adaptability. Insecurity and guilt are often common emotions behind this. So the symptoms of the fear of change phobia. And as stated before, the fear of change is a natural survival instinct ingrained in humans. So this is why, for example, with COVID, people actually were showing their animal primal instincts, how they were told to be locked in the house, not go out, fearful of disease, fearful of these things. Whereas actually other people like myself, I didn't wear masks, I went to places where I wanted to, I just felt that if I couldn't go somewhere, I couldn't go. But I felt that you had to go outside as much as you could, get fresh air, sociability, talking to people. I felt was a big thing. And I think this is actually where that fear of change, and now they say build back better. That's not about change. That's about elite people telling you how to live. And now that's coming into censorship, and that's now coming into about how your opinionates, how they don't want you to have an opinion, how they don't want you to go against the natural grain of government, which I don't agree with. I believe change has to come from within yourself, and I think it has to come from all your environment. And actually, instead of people going against immigrants or illegal immigrants or a religion like Islam, they should go against the government, because they're the bastards, and they need to change. They need to change the systems, and they need to make it better for us to live in. Anyway, symptoms of fear and change. I'll go back to it. Sorry, went a bit of a rant there. So the thought of change or adapting to a new environment may lead to a full-blown panic or anxiety attack. The phobia may experience a few or all of the following symptoms: heart palpitations, rapid or shallow breathing, shaking or trembling, sweating, nausea or gastronomical distress, basically stomach ache, inability to form words, dry mouth, which I don't have on that. I always keep. So I don't go like that. Thoughts of death, choking, and extreme dread. Yeah, but this is how some people are, and you have to actually go into that and find out why they do that. Avoidance of change is another symptom. The person suffers rejecting everything new. They create their comfort zone and is unwilling to come out of it, and it prevents introducing anything new to achieve this goal. I actually have friends like this who are not willing to listen to change, and they've now actually moved out the UK and live in Mexico, or they live in other places, and they think that they're going to have that life they've used to because they don't want the change. But the fact is, change is going to come. It's going to come around the world, whether you like it or not. So you have to adapt to it, and you have to learn to work with it and actually go with the flow of it. Anything. For avoiding change, they may go to great lengths, break ties, tell lies, or make excuses. They also may affect their social, personal, and professional lives. So, yes, they may go to somewhere else because they can't be told and can't do this, but they then actually affect their professional life because they don't get the work they need. So to me, if you want to not be part of the system, you have to learn to work with multiple choices of work. And that means doing work where you have to do a lot of online work, you have to do a lot of stuff which is different, and that can involve travel. But also when you go into some cultures, you can't just believe that your culture is only the one where you can work in. If you go into a culture, you've got to learn it and work with and adapt with it. So overcoming this fear of change. Consciously relearning new behaviour to overcome the association that change is bad is effective, though this is very difficult at first. So, how do we change it? So, the fear of change is deeply embedded in one's psyche. What do we call the psyche? The subconscious. So to trace the roots, one can undergo hypnotherapy sessions. I do this with a lot of people. Oh, I don't want to change my job. I don't want to change where I live. I don't want to change my marriage. I don't want to change my relationships. I don't want to change my reaction to everything. I just want to keep being miserable. It's bullshit. You need to change. It's just adaptable. You've got to do it. These hypnotherapies, they can help the individual face the source of their anxiety and relearn or erase negative thoughts associated with it. So once these roots of the anxiety are traced, one can also use gradual exposure to changes. This can slowly help one break away from the association between change, which is stimulus, and the reaction to it, a response. And the gradual desensitization of this sort is very effective in making the individual feel more in control when faced with a change. So with hypnotherapy, you would probably do things were in the past, revive the present of where they need to change in that part, and then the future of seeing that change and working with the change to make it work for them. So that's why my ARC program, which is a 3-session program, each session is 2 hours, and we go really in depth to find these issues and reframe them, change them. And you all change. So if you don't like change, don't come to my session. But you need change. And you're going to have to change, because the world is going to change a lot. In 5 years' time, 70% of people's normal work will go to AI or androids. So if you're not willing to change, you're going to be left behind, and you're not going to not want to be stuck at home, not working, not doing anything. So you're going to want to change, because the world is going to change, and you can try and stop it all you like, live in some commune, live in some fantasy world of what the world used to be like, but it's going to change. So you have to adapt to that, right? You're just going to have to. So with this, NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and behaviour therapies can also overcome this fear of change. Group therapy, talk therapy, writing down negative and positive thoughts are some of the techniques that can be rationalise one's fear. So this is my opinion. If you have a fear of change, you have a fear that you have to change your job, or you have a fear that you're going to have to leave home, or you have a fear that your job will become obsolete in the next few years, please come to me, have a consultation, and I will talk with this, and we will work out a system. And I would guarantee that this will change your life, and for the better. So then you're not worried about where's the money coming from, where am I going to pay this? Maybe you'll have to change and adapt your living standards. The thing is, fear is so encrippulating, it cripples people, and it needs to change, and the change is important. So my actual thing is, I'm an advocate of change. That's what my job is. As a hypnotherapist, I want to help people change. I want them to become better. I want them to be able to feel comfortable. I want them to feel that they can actually handle situations, and they can literally just take it on the chin, work with it, and move on. And actually, when people do have hypnotherapy, their lives just don't change for just themselves. They change for the whole environment, because everybody starts changing around them, and then they start seeing the benefits. Why wouldn't you want that? I just don't get it. But I understand people are very fearful, and some people actually may be fearful of therapy. Maybe they're fearful of therapy because when they actually find out what their real inner thoughts are, that's what scares them, and that's why people are afraid of change. But as a very famous saying, by Michael Jackson was, looking at the man in the mirror, you all want to make a change. We all want to make a change, and that's important. We all need to make a change. If we want to make a change in the world, we have to change within ourselves, and we have to change our mindset. If we don't do that, it'll never change. And we can't trust the politicians. We've seen what shit they do and how rubbish they are. And rubbish, if you don't understand that, if you're American, garbage. They're shit. They can't do anything. They talk a load of bollocks. It's all word salad, right? They talk a good game. They're not going to change. The only thing will change for them is them. They'll become wealthier. The actual average person doesn't change. The only person who can change is you. And if you do not want to change, then you're going to be stuck behind in a world where you'll be crying and wondering why the world has changed so much, because it's not going to wait for you. It's not going to go back. The world's not going to go back into cash and not using telephones and not using technology. The world is a technological advanced place. It's about the evolution of humans. That's what's going to happen. So you can stop all you want, and you can get laws, and they can do all these things, but it will not stop change. Change is going to happen, and it's needed. So that is what my work is. And if you're very interested and you want to have hypnotherapy, have a consultation with me. Listen talk about it again, then you can make a choice whether you want to do the sessions, or I make a choice whether I think you're ready to change. Because this is the thing, people think, oh, well, I'll go to hypnotherapy, they'll do everything, they'll change because I won't have to do any work. No, you've got to do the work as well. It's not just me. It's not just a hypnotherapist, it's not just the therapist. I'm not your politician. I'm not going to be the one that you just vote someone and you don't do shit. It's not going to how it works, right? You have to want to change. If you want to change, please talk to me. I'm quite happy, and I'm very willing to listen to people. But if you're not willing to change, or you're not wanting to change, I'm not going to listen. Because this is the thing. If I work on one person, they're not willing to change. There's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people who want to change. Why am I going to waste my time on you if you don't want to change? It'd be absolutely fucking wasting my time, and I ain't got time to waste. Because the world is changing and we need to change with it. And I don't want to see people poor. I don't want to see people struggling. But, you've got to pay. And this is the other thing as well. Some people think they don't want to change. Because it costs too much money. But when you have no money in the future because you haven't got a job, how are you going to survive? This is the reality of it. And it actually could be quite scary for people. This is why the fear of technology, which is coming next, is vastly important. So please, if you want to make a change, want to get above this idea that you fear of change, and we can change that and reframe it, please give me a call. Please give me a call. Please email me. Contact me. I'm available everywhere. You look at Rich Clark, you'll find me on Instagram. You'll find me on Facebook. You'll find me on LinkedIn. You'll find me on my website, www.richclark.net. There's many ways of finding me. There's no excuse. And I'm pretty contemporary. I'm not some guy in a suit being stuffy. I will listen to you, and I have such a vast array of work experience, living experience, cultural experience. You couldn't go to anyone really better. And that's not blowing my own trumpet. It's just that I know I'm very good. And I feel that if I help you, you will become very good at what you do. So what are you waiting for? Anyway, till next time, au revoir.